Hi, I'm Andy Fry, the author of The Consultant's Code. The Consultant's Code is a book that's based on 20 years of experience and lessons that I've learned or information that I've been taught from other consultants or executives or clients throughout my consulting career. The lessons in these videos are mainly going to be taken from the book, and lessons will be digging down deeper into those lessons so that you can implement this in your daily lives. I want to share a story about my childhood. I was never really a great student, and I always kind of struggled in school. My grade, when I was in the 11th grade, I was in a social studies class that I really enjoyed the class. I enjoyed the teacher. The information was interesting to me. And I was doing the things that I should have been, that you would expect to get good grades. I sat towards the front of the class. I listened. I paid attention. I studied. And I worked hard when it came down to tests and assignments. Even though I did that, I would routinely get 6 out of 10 on my assignments or my tests. My teacher graded things on a scale of 10. So I was wondering why some students were getting 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, and I was always getting 6 out of 10. And, I knew the material, I worked hard at it, and I was always curious, even at a young age, why some students got it and understood what the teacher was asking, and other students didn't. And they always correlated with their grades. And so in my social studies class, I was talking with my best friend at the time, and he said to me, just write assimilation numerous times in the test or your assignment. And at the time, we were studying about Native Americans, and the teacher used the word assimilation multiple times in the class. So sure enough, the next test I wrote, I threw down the word assimilation and peppered it throughout the test. Wouldn't you know it, I got 8 out of 10 on the test. So that was great. What I found out from that experience, though, there was really 3 main things that I found out. One was that learning new information was not difficult for me. Number 2, the challenge was there was an underlying set of rules that the good students knew that the poorer students didn't know. The third thing was anger. I was angry that it took to my 11th grade, to the 11th grade, for me to understand that there really was a set of guidelines and rules and principles that the good students were using, that the poorer students weren't. And what I realized was that I couldn't just use the word assimilation in every assignment and every test from English and science and mathematics and social studies and get good grades. This was like knowing that there was a recipe out there, but you only knew one ingredient. So I knew that there was more to this than I knew. If I fast forward now going to college, when I went to college, the thing that I started to do was really study the system. I started to study how professors taught. I studied what they were teaching. And if you've got a textbook this thick, right, you have a lot of material to get through. So professors in college and university have a challenge. They need to get through a tremendous amount of information in a very short amount of time. So I learned quickly that the professors are going to focus on the information that they think is important. So all I did was concentrate on the information that they were focusing on in a daily class. And I didn't need to learn all of the material to get a good grade. What I needed to do was focus on what they were talking and what they were stressing and what they were reiterating in their classes on a daily basis. And studying the system also allowed me to learn some other things. One thing was, if you didn't want to be called upon in class, you actually looked the teacher or the instructor right in the eyes. The reason is because everybody who doesn't want to be called upon would look down or would fidget or be distracted with something else. And I realized if I looked the professor straight in the eyes when they would ask the class a question, I would never be asked that question. So even if I didn't know it, they would never ask me. And I don't know if the professors just thought I was freaking them out by staring at them, or if they thought I knew the answer, so there was no point asking that guy, but I would never be called upon. So what I realized by watching the system and watching the process, that there were a set of rules that were constantly being used by everybody who was in that. Now, if we go to my senior year of college, what I realized was I had a professor that really was getting us prepared for the real world. He believed that 10% of students should fail. Now, this was a big challenge in your senior year when you need that class to graduate. So I really focused on his process. I focused on what he said, and I realized that there were some things that he was asking for. One was, don't ask stupid questions. Don't waste my time. Get your work done on time. Don't ask for anything free. So his belief was if you're going to put the work in and you put the effort in, you're going to get a good grade. But if you think you're going to come to me and suck up or ask for additional time or give me some lame excuse, it's not going to work. And what I found was because I focused on that class and I focused on his process, I realized that, first of all, I didn't want to be one of those 10% that would fail, especially my senior year where I needed to graduate or wanted to graduate. But I ended up getting an A in the class. And what I realized was that there were unique systems within a system. And as I went on, I started to add different tools to my toolbox. One was in this class with this one professor my senior year, I added a mentor. So what I did was I asked one of the other students that I knew was intelligent, got the material, understood it. I asked him for help. And it wasn't just asking him for help so that he would give me the answers. I was engaged with the process. I was focused. I put in effort, and I had intent while this person was helping me. Now, I had worked with other students in the past before, group projects and that kind of stuff where you get together and drink beer and waste time, or people that you'd share, you get their notes from them because you knew they were smart. But this was the first time that I asked somebody for help and they helped me along the process. So it was really my first real kind of mentorship kind of process in my life. And so now, after I graduate from college, I'm working in retail. And this is where I start to take the review of systems to a whole different level. My job was primarily the manager of customer service. I was an operations supervisor, but 90% of my time was spent dealing with customer service issues. So when you went to a store and you asked to talk to the manager, I was that guy. So you can imagine how many times in a day people were coming in angry, or they wanted something. They wanted to return something damaged or that was overused or whatever the situation was. And because I built this process of reviewing the system, I learned quickly that even customers that wanted something had a system. Most customers would come in angry, or they would use reason, or they would use threats, or they would try to use likability and try to sweeten me up. They always had a process, and often they would cycle from one process to another, one stage to another. They might come in angry, then they would use reason. Then they would beg, then they would threaten. Then they might use a sweetening tactic. But there was always those processes. And so that helped me understand where the client was coming from, how they were reacting, how they were feeling, so that I could actually better serve them and hopefully solve their problem. As I moved on, and after that I went into consulting, I was really fortunate because I worked directly for a vice president. He was his biller, his forecaster, and would run his budgets. And in that, I started to see how the insides of a consulting operation worked. And this was really valuable for me after I went into becoming a consultant, because I understood the needs and what was required within a consulting company. So understanding that system really helped me, because he shared a lot of information that only the people that are administering or managing consulting companies actually get. So most consultants go into consulting, and it isn't until they become a manager that they're taught this information. So as I roll into consulting, this is really where my likability kicked in. And I had a lot of people that offered to be mentors, or I would ask them to be mentors, but I got a lot of information that was shared with me during this time. And that information was invaluable for the success of my consulting career, because they were sharing information that either they were taught or they experienced, or just frustration that they had throughout their career, they would share with me. And I would take that information, write it down, document it, but I would also evaluate it and see, is this really happening? Is this really true? And see, how does that work within the system that I'm seeing? And as time went on, I realized that the pillars of the consultant's code really held true. The 4 pillars of the consulting code are intelligence, effort, likability, and intent. And I started to see that there was a common thread of those pillars throughout really good quality consultants. And as I went to a smaller consulting firm, I was one of their top billers for 4 years straight, mainly because I started to use these systems and these pillars that I had learned. That allowed me to go on my own and start my own consulting firm and work for myself. Because I was in demand, I started to build connections with my clients, and I had information that my clients were now sharing with me, problems that they had, challenges that they found with consultants. So this information I started to use, and again, look at the system. How does this work? How can I better help my clients and help other consultants that I'm working with? So these are the lessons that are taught within the consulting code, the Consultant's Code book, and the lessons that I'm going to teach in these videos. Now, one thing I would do differently if I went back in time would be to use a mentor earlier in my life. My sister offered to help me during my school years, and I didn't want help from her. I refused the help. Much of it was maybe because it was my sister. Maybe I wanted to do it on my own. But regardless, I didn't take the help when it was offered. And this set me back. I had to learn a lot of things. I had to ask a lot of questions. And I believe my education and learning would have been easier and a little more fluid had I taken that help, because she was a good student. And I would have been able to piece that together earlier in my life and not have to kind of build that on my own. Today, I have a 20 plus year consulting career. It's lucrative. I have great consultants, and I've used the lessons that I've learned throughout my career to build this so that I have a quality life, career, relationships with my clients, and I'm able to share this information with you. So in these videos, I'll be sharing information from the Consultant's Code, as well as other information that has come up and other information that I'm learning and gathering, because I'm still looking at the systems and still looking at what's happening out there in the marketplace and with clients. So if you'd like these videos, I want to help you. Subscribe to the channel or sign up, and you'll get the videos in your email. One thing to remember, and this is one thing I've learned throughout my career, is this is about you making yourself great. You need to find the information and the help to make yourself a great consultant and have a great career. So I welcome you to watch the videos, learn from them, and implement them. You're not required to purchase the book. The lessons within the videos will be concise, and they'll be detailed enough that you don't need to purchase the book. I will be referring to that book as well as other books. I'm writing another book right now. I will be referring to those books. So if you do want to purchase them and follow along, you're more than welcome to, but you're not required to. The lessons are to be implemented. They're information that you can apply right away, and they're to build your career so that you can be great. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. And if you'd like to reach me, please contact me at andy@theconsultingplaybook.com. I'd love to read your views and comments.